I'm your host, Zach, and this is the Hoop Junkie Podcast, where we talk all things hoops. If you're looking for another podcast to make that long drive a little less terrible, or even looking for an excuse to get out of speaking to your coworkers, this is the place for you. Enjoy the show.
There's a dude with 35 in white getting it done defensively and then offensively, taking over the final. Mama, there goes that man. Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that? And we're talking about practice.
Pulls off three-pointers. Bang! Bang! It's good! Wins the game at the buzzer!
Hello. Welcome back to the Hoop Junkie Podcast. First things first, please hit that like and subscribe button on whichever platform you are consuming this junk coming out of my mouth. On today's pod, we've got a good one. I brought in two good old friends to join the pod, and I think I convinced them to be regulars. I brought my boy Taylor and Chance on for us to go ahead and do a full season preview of all 30 teams in the league. Check it out. Let me know what you think. Gentlemen, thank y'all for joining me on the pod.
Thanks, man.
Happy to be here, buddy.
All right, so let's do a little catch up. So how's everything been with you guys? What have you guys been up to?
I'm going to let Taylor go first because he has a lot more stories to tell on the past week than me.
Well, this past Saturday, them Tennessee Volunteers took down the Crimson Tide. Your boy got to be there in person and take those goalposts out the stadium.
So my question is, Taylor, like when y'all took the goalposts out the stadium, like that means like everybody was just walking through the tunnels through the building, right? With the goalposts?
Yeah.
Well, they put it in the river, didn't they? Yeah. They wouldn't polluted their own state just because they were celebrating that they won.
Yeah, we took them out the stadium and walked them down the street all the way to the river. It was a repeat of 1998. I knew those goalposts were coming down if we won that game.
You know what I feel like right now? Like you are basically committing to a crime on the middle of this pod. Because I'm pretty sure that's got to be like a federal offense, putting a goalpost in the river.
And the cops just let it happen.
They were probably helping. They were like, "Yeah, the river's this way. I'll give you an escort. Let's go."
That's the Tennessee fan base for you, man. There's something else.
Oh, man. Well, look, gentlemen, I'm glad to have you guys, and I'm really excited about this upcoming basketball season we've got. It's a lot of interesting things going on, and I think that you guys can really help us kind of tell the story. So, look, there's some stuff that we've got here that Chance, I want you to go ahead and break it down to the listeners on kind of the direction we're going to go with this pod today.
All right, so we're just going to give a full overview of the NBA season as a whole. And since this is the Hoop Junkies podcast, it's only right that we tie this to the junkies that we are, which is 5 fast food restaurants. So what we're going to do is we're going to break these teams down into 5 different categories, right? So there are going to be a couple teams that we talk about that those are the contenders, and we're going to label them as Chick-Fil-A because Chick-Fil-A, you know that they're always going to be at the very top. They're the upper echelon of fast food. I don't think anybody listening to this would debate that for a second.
No, not arguing about God's chicken. What's next? All
right, so after that, we've got the teams that they could be contenders, but they need a couple breaks to happen their way. They might need a couple other teams to have some stars go down. They need a really perfect world to have things go right, and that's going to be Chipotle. Because with Chipotle, you can have a great experience at Chipotle, but you need everything to go right. You need them to season the food just correctly. You need a lot of different things to happen to have a good experience. I've had some really great experiences at Chipotle, but I've had a couple bad experiences too. So that's the contenders with some luck. That's going to be your tier 2.
And if you live in Memphis, Tennessee, do not go to the Chipotle on Union, because that Chipotle is one that nothing ever goes right. You will never be winning a championship at that Chipotle on Union.
So you will not be a contender with luck. Don't go to the one on Union.
Zero luck.
So after that, you've got your third category, and that is going to be just your average Joes, your playoff team. They're not necessarily a contender, but they should safely make the playoffs. And I think we all know what that's got to be, right? That's McDonald's. You know exactly what you're getting every time you go to a McDonald's. They're never going to blow you away, but unless you want ice cream at midnight, you're never going to be disappointed either. So that's your third category. After that, we've got the Patrick Beverly play-in stars, and that's going to be your Dairy Queen. So those are the teams that borderline playoff. They're going to have to play their guys every single night. There's going to be no load management because they're fighting and clawing to get to that 8 or 9 spot, maybe the 10 spot to get in that playoff game or that play-in game, and that's going to be your Dairy Queen. Your Dairy Queen, you have a couple good experiences, but that's going to be like your bottom tier just fighting to hang on, which is basically what Dairy Queen is in the fast food industry right now. And then finally, we've got the Wembanyama Sweepstakes. That's Captain D's. We all know, I don't know a single person who's ever enjoyed going to Captain D's, just like I don't know anybody that's enjoyed watching some of these teams that we're going to talk about today. So the very bottom tier is going to be your Captain D's. So we've got your Chick-Fil-A, Chipotle, McDonald's, Dairy Queen, Captain D's. Let's get it.
I love it. All right, boys, so let's do this from A to Z. Let's go ahead and start with the Atlanta Hawks. How are y'all feeling about the Hawks?
I'm really curious to see what happens with DeJounte Murray. I think it's a good addition for them. I think it's a situation where they give up a couple future assets to try to go win now. You've got Trae Young, who they got to the conference finals 2 years ago, then they went back and took another step back last year. So now it's just like, which Atlanta Hawks team are we really going to get? Are we going to get that team that had every break caught right a couple years ago, or are we going to get the Atlanta Hawks team that played no defense last year? It's just Trae Young dribbling around, trying to make things happen, but no real supporting cast around him. So, I mean, they've got some good pieces. I'm a big fan of DeAndre Hunter. I think he's one of the better two-way.
He's healthy this year, isn't he?
Yeah. So that's going to be a big difference. And then, I like John Collins a lot, but it seems like he's on the move, so we'll see what they do with them. But, personally, I would probably put them around the McDonald's. Like, I see them making the playoffs, but not necessarily having a chance. Like, I don't think there's any kind of situation where the Hawks actually make a run as a championship contender team. What do you guys think?
I'm with you on that. I see the Vegas win total right now is around 45.5. Last season they had 44 wins, I believe, 44 and 38. I like that over under for them. It's not personally one I would bet. I see them around that. I definitely agree with them being a McDonald's type team. Now, I love the team. I love the addition that they made with DeJounte Murray this summer. That guy's he's a baller. He just goes out there and he gives it his all. Man, defense, I love watching him on defense. But yeah, just an average team, above average team actually. A 6 to 8 seed somewhere in there. I'm thinking they probably stay out of the play-in, but I would not be surprised if they're in the play-in. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, no, right there. I'm not going to waste too much time going over that because y'all took all the words right out of my mouth. It's really hard to make a huge jump like that they're expecting to make in one season. I love the DeJounte Murray pickup just like you guys do, but at the end of the day, they have to figure out their defensive deficiencies. And honestly, they got to start with Trae Young at that because last year he was one of the worst defenders in the league. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. McDonald's, they'll be good this year. They'll be fun to watch, but I don't see anything big happening. All right, so look, let's go and move on to the Boston Celtics. Boston, let's move to the Garden. That's how they say it, right? Yeah, right? That's my best Boston impersonation, right? So look, they lost in the NBA Finals, right? And it was they started off last year struggling, but then they turned it around under Ime Udoka, who will no longer be with the team as of this year for reasons that are still kind of unclear. but as far as basketball wise, we'll kind of just go through there. Where do you guys think that the Celtics fall this year?
I mean, it's hard to not put them in that contender status, even losing their coach. I mean, how big of a deal is that going to make? They've got the talent there. Jason Tatum really let us down in the finals last year, so I'm really curious to see how he bounces back mentally from that. They made a couple additions. Malcolm Brogdon, when healthy, is awesome, but it's like you can pretty much pencil him down for missing 20 to 25 games every single season at this point. He's just never proven to stay healthy. So if that's the case, bringing back just about everybody, you expect Jaylen Brown to continue to get better.
Gallows
Derek White
out
was
for
a
the
good
year
fit.
too, right?
Yeah, Gallows out for the year, so that's going to be a wash already. So, I mean, I'm kind of torn on this one. I could see them being Chick-fil-A contenders, but I could also, I think you've got to put them as Chick-fil-A contenders at this point based on what they've done before. What do you guys think?
Here's my thing. Their number one weakness last year really came out of just some of their lack of at the point guard position. Marcus Smart, I love him. He's a fellow Texas native. I love him to death, but they needed somebody to get the ball to some of their top guys. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have proven that they are great scorers, but they are not necessarily the greatest of playmakers. And I really think that Malcolm Brogdon can somewhat help in that, although he's not necessarily known as the greatest playmaker. But I think as a playmaker, he's an upgrade to their roster. Mm-hmm. So for me to say that they're anything less than a contender, I don't know if I can do that. But however, I don't necessarily go into the season feeling any more confident about them after they just lost their head coach and then they're going through all of this drama at the beginning of the season. But man, for me, I'm gonna have to keep them at Chick-fil-A. But this is probably maybe one of the worst Chick-fil-A's in the country.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those days where like you kind of were wanting to go to like a nice place, but you just had one of those days where just like whatever, we'll just get fast food and we'll go to Chick-fil-A. Like you're not super excited about it, but you can't you're not gonna go fast food and not get Chick-fil-A. So
that's right. I'm right there with you on that. My thoughts, I'm right there with you on Brogdon. He is an all-around player, man. He'll play good D. He'll spread the ball. He takes open shots. He doesn't force anything. He's definitely an upgrade to that guard position. With they can piece it together. Him, Derek White, Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard. They can all facilitate. Not the best in the world. They're no Ja Morant. They're no Trae Young, but they can get the job done. Jason Tatum, as far as his finals performance, me and Chance were talking during the finals, and I just could not fathom the performance that he was putting up, and then it comes out that what did he have, a broken finger or something like that?
Yeah, they said he was really struggling with his hangnail, and it was just bothering him, the whole finals. That's what it was. No, they said he had, like, some type of shoulder issue or something, which is expected, right? When he's struggling that bad, who knows if it was actually true or not. I think, regardless, he had some mental blocks that got in his way towards the end as well. Yeah. So, yeah, definitely curious to see how he bounces back from that and how they bounce back from the drama as a whole, right? I mean, obviously, a lot has gone on in that locker room. It's not something you can just completely forget about, right? You still have to move forward and play. And we'll find out here in the first couple weeks. If they look like they've never missed a beat, then all right, we'll go. But that drama could get in the way as well.
Ooh, let's roll on to Brooklyn.
Speaking of drama.
Yeah, speaking of drama. So I didn't think that after all the stuff that Boston had been through, we could potentially move on to a team that had any more drama. But we found them right after. The Brooklyn Nets. So, guys, this team lost in the first round. They haven't seemed to be able to put it together. They made all those moves a few years back. They went and got Kevin Durant. They went and got Kyrie. And then they went and added James Harden and had to trade James Harden last year. Then they went and got Ben Simmons. They thought Ben Simmons was going to be able to play. But then Ben Simmons, his mentals wasn't right still. And then his back got hurt, had to have back season surgery. So what is going on in Brooklyn? So is this the year or not?
Man, it's really hard to put a finger on what's going to happen with this team. I mean, anytime you put Ben Simmons, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant all in a room, who knows what's going to happen next? So, I mean, in theory, it could work out. I think Ben Simmons is ideally the great fit next to Kyrie and next to KD. I think that where he lacks, they can make up for those deficiencies in other ways. I'm curious to see how they use him. I'm curious to see how he'll be defended as well. Are they just going to sag off him? I think they might get him involved in some more dribble handoffs where they really have to keep the pressure up, and so they're not able to really sag off him a whole lot because they could do dribble handoffs and maybe hand off to KD or Kyrie where they can actually spread the floor. But, I mean, at the end of the day, Ben Simmons doesn't seem like he's cared too much about improving his shooting throughout his time in the league. I still think he's shooting with the wrong hand in the first place, but I won't get too deep into that.
Have you not seen social media?
Yeah, he absolutely is shooting with the wrong hand. We've got videos of him. He was airballing like on the park the other day too. So
Yep.
I don't know. As far as categorizing these guys, what do you guys think? I think it's two clear choices. Are these guys Chick-fil-A or are they Chipotle? What do you guys think?
I'm gonna break it out with Chick-fil-A. I'm a Nets supporter this year. I fully believe that Ben Simmons is that missing piece. I love Ben Simmons. So, as far as facilitating and just playing the dunker spot, playing good defense, his fast break ability, oh my gosh, he is just unbelievable on the fast break. That guy is like, it's like watching a ballerina. He is fantastic on the fast break.
Breaking news, Taylor Caldwell also watches ballerinas.
Yeah, man. And Taylor, I'm riding with you, man. They're Chick-fil-A. So, obviously, we can't account for all of the reality TV-ness that comes with the Brooklyn Nets. Yeah, some of that might happen. But when you sit there and think about on a basketball court, if you can put Ben Simmons next to Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, that's a perfect trio. You've got a ball handler that's willing to pass, like Ben Simmons, and that can set up people. That's big body. That's a great defender. That means he literally makes up for all of the deficiencies of a Kevin Durant and a Kyrie Irving. And so I think all three of those together, I think that this might be a year that they finally figure it out. But I will say, though, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Now, if something goes wrong this time, I'm not picking them again to be a contender, okay? So for now, I'm going back with Chick-fil-A on this one.
Yeah, I think that's the right call, as much as I hate to say it, just because, like, personally I don't really enjoy rooting for any of these players, but I think they've got to go Chick-fil-A. But, I mean, you also never know what could happen. Like, Kyrie could literally decide in December that he's just not going to play basketball anymore. He might have a new religion that's just completely against basketball. Like, nothing is off the table with this guy.
Yeah.
And so, but, I mean, yeah, you've got to go Chick-fil-A. As long as these guys are all on the court, we can't account for the external factors. If they're on the court, they're going to be a top seed. They're going to be in it at the end. I don't really think there's much more to say about them.
Yeah, and I'll add one more thing, too. So you think about the Nets, all this drama that was moving on, the Nets made some solid roster moves this offseason. You look at the people they added Royce O'Neal this offseason. I think that's a solid piece for them. Mm-hmm. They brought Nick Claxton back. Then you got Joe Harris coming back healthy. Then I know TJ Warren has been a ghost for the past couple of years due to his health circumstances. But if TJ Warren can play himself back into shape, they've got a solid bench.
Yeah, they do. And Joe Harris, I feel like obviously he had the injury, but this guy just doesn't miss when he's open. And even in the preseason, he looked like he was just right back to form. That's a good call. He's a great fit. I think even Royce O'Neal, he comes in and he's going to play that role perfectly as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think on paper these guys should be.
They got a ton of shooters, man.
They do. With Seth Curry wrapped around as well. I think, yeah, they should be good. I mean, we can't account for any craziness, but as long as they're out there, they should be a contender for sure.
I'm really intrigued to see if TJ Warren can just be 80% of what he was in the bubble. I mean,
honestly, for the Nets, if he could be 60% of it,
yeah,
that's all they need.
That's all they need. That's all they need from him. All right, now look, let's make a little quick pit stop in Charlotte. What do you think's going for the Jordan Brand Hornets this year?
I think this pit stop is going straight to Captain D's. I don't even really have much to say about this team. I mean, Miles Bridges just completely derailed his career and this whole Charlotte Hornets franchise. They were banking on signing him to this huge contract. He was a great fit. Everything was going well, and then we won't get into all the off-the-court stuff, but it was not a good situation.
You talk about fumbling a bag.
Yeah.
He just beyond fumbled it.
Yeah. There's no excuse for that.
We were talking about throwing those field goal posts in the river. That man threw the whole bag in the river.
He threw the whole bag in the river. And now they've got – it's basically LaMelo and a bunch of scrubs, right? I mean, Gordon Hayward's there, but just like Malcolm Brogdon, like, can you really count on him to be on the court when you need him? I don't think so.
They didn't extend PJ today either.
They didn't extend PJ.
Nope.
Also, did you guys see the picture of Gordon Hayward's hair on social media?
Yeah, he needs to fire his barber.
I think his barber also works at Captain D's because that was just rough. That was awful. LaMelo, I think he turned his ankle. He's going to be out for a couple weeks too. This team is just not going to be fun to watch at all, which is crazy because it was just the past couple of years. They were one of the league pass darlings, right, with LaMelo, Miles Bridges flying down the court. So, yeah, I think this is a clear-cut Captain D's. This is the team I'm least excited about to watch all season. Any objections there from you guys?
I agree.
Now, I'm going to give you two things to watch, though. this year. First thing is how long does Jordan and those guys say, hey, let's milk this LaMelo Ball ankle injury and try to keep him out for the Wembanyama sweepstakes? And then number two, there needs to be a prop bet on when does LeVar Ball finally start going after Jordan for the lack of talent around his son. So those are the two things that I'm watching.
Definitely.
Can we all agree that Jordan is one of the worst owners in the league right now?
I mean, what has he really done to make you think otherwise at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, slap Malik Monk across the head.
Man, I hate we all hate talking about Jordan, but yeah, his track record hasn't been that good. So let's keep this bus on rolling.
Yeah, Kwame Brown's not walking through that door to save these guys, that's for sure.
So let's talk about the Chicago Bulls. So this is an interesting team, guys. You got Lonzo Ball with his multiple surgeries now.
Yeah, who knows if he's even going to be able to play this year, right?
It's very murky on his health, so we don't even know when he'll be back. There's no set in stone timeline. This team overachieved last year at the beginning of the year before injuries started piling up. So where do you think the Chicago Bulls will land this year?
DeMar DeRozan's got to be aging, right? I mean, I just got to expect him to start aging at some point. I mean, what he did at the first half of last season was mind-boggling to me. I didn't see that coming. That came out of left field. But, I love Ayo. He is a cool kid to watch play. Zach
Great
LaVine,
value pick for them. That was a steal.
Can Zach LaVine, can he stay healthy, Patrick Williams, he hasn't done anything yet, really. I mean, he showed, flashes, but, nothing of significance. Vucevic, he's kind of a McDonald's type player. Just a good player, not great, not bad. The bench is kind of Goran Dragic, he's got to be in his 40s now, is he?
Yeah, I think he's able to start contributing or withdrawing from his 401k at this point. He's got to be close. Yeah, I mean, I think the story's pretty much the same when you look up and down their roster. It's just, can they stay healthy? But even if they can, what is this team ceiling?
Drummond's got a 3-ball now, though.
Yeah, that is true. Drummond's is a shooter now.
The most surprising thing I have seen in years. He hit 2 or 3 threes.
And the shot looked good. That might be sustainable.
Man, that thing looked like butter, boy.
Yeah, they did, but... Yeah, I mean, I'm not super excited about this team. I hate, the Lonzo situation. He was such an up-and-coming player. He found his role there in Chicago, and he just can't get the knee to get right. I've heard reports that he might be able to return at some point in the season, but, I mean, as of now, apparently he can't even, jump or run or anything, and so that's just a tough situation. If they had him for the year, I might feel a little bit differently, but, yeah, I mean, Zach LaVine, you can't trust him to stay healthy for a full season as well. DeRozan, he is what he is at this point, but he's got to start declining at some point, like you mentioned. So I think I know where I want to put this team, but I'm going to let you guys go first. What are you thinking here?
Where does between 35 and 45 wins, where does that put you?
I mean, that's got to be in the East. I think that could be Patrick Beverly playing stars over in Dairy Queen. That's where I was thinking. What do you guys think?
I'm going with Dairy Queen. I think they've got a lot to like. I love their blizzards. However, I don't want to eat a hamburger there. So I'm going with Dairy Queen for these guys just because I don't see them being able to put it in together. And then, honestly, DeMar DeRozan had the best the best year of his career last year. Can we really expect him to do that again this year at his age? I don't see it happening. I'm going with Dairy Queen.
Yeah, Dairy Queen all the way, and I actually lean more towards that 35 win total. They could miss that play-in. I could see them as 11,
Yeah, I could totally see that. The East is sneaky deep this year. You never know.
Now, let's move to a team I am excited to see this year, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Obviously, they made a big move for Donovan Mitchell this year. They got rid of Colin Sexton and Lauri Markkanen to bring him in. But if you sit there and you look at their lineup, guys, they got Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, and Jaron Allen and as their projected starters with Karis LeVert, Kevin Love coming off the bench. Name me a better starting 7 than that in the league. It's not many of them. So where do you guys think that the Cavs are going this year?
Man, young core-wise, they are top of the food chain. I mean, they got to be up there. Them, Grizzlies, Celtics, I guess you could still say they have really good young core. Tatum and Brown still fall into that. Who else? Who else is there?
I mean, you can go Dallas based off Luka
Dallas.
alone, but yeah, I think they're definitely up there as well. I really love the addition of Mitchell. I think this is the perfect landing spot for him. Obviously, he gave up on defense a long time ago, right? Like soon after he got in the league, he decided defense just isn't his thing. But what better team to go to than a team with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen watching your back on those pick and rolls? Like, this is the perfect fit for them. I'm a huge Darius Garland guy. He's probably my favorite non-Grizzly player to watch in the league. I love his game. I think this team, with the right moves, with the right luck, I think they could be up there. I definitely wouldn't put them as a contender, but I think I would go Chipotle with these guys because I could see a world where everything breaks right and these guys could sneak into that championship.
Man, yeah, I agree with you. I'm going beans, rice, and burritos, dog. Put them in the Chipotle.
Yeah, Chipotle for me too. That was a pretty easy decision for me. You know, my heart wants to just throw them into contenders because they are going to be so much fun to watch.
As far as league pass criteria, these guys are contenders
Oh
for sure.
my gosh,
Top
they're
5
gonna
team
be a
to watch,
blast.
no doubt.
Karis LeVert as a 6-man. I mean, come on, man. That team is going to be a blast to watch.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I'm curious to see with this team, obviously, how does Donovan Mitchell fit? I feel pretty good about that, but also, how much does Evan Mobley develop from year 1 to 2, right? He's already one of the best young defensive players in the league. Can he make a similar jump on offense to become one of the best two-way big men in the league? I'll be really curious to see how that pans out this year as well.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued.
All right, so let's go and move to my Dallas Mavericks. So, obviously, this summer, in a lot of ways, we took a lot of steps back. But in a lot of ways, my Mavs took some steps forward, and they kind of addressed some things that they needed to address. They brought in JaVale McGee. They needed a solid big man because the big man rotation last year was just a whole bunch of tweeners. You had Dwight Powell starting at center, and then you answer that by bringing in JaVale McGee and then making the move for Christian Wood, bringing some more firepower off the bench, another guy that can thrive off of Luka's isolation.
Can I stop you right there? Why is Christian Wood coming off the bench?
So
why are we just going to act like that's a normal decision?
So
He'll play 30 minutes.
So I'll tell you why. So Jason Kidd, ever since he came to Dallas, he has harped on defense, and if you look at who all starts next to Luka, is Luka can do whatever the hell he wants to do, and then everybody else needs to play some defense.
Right.
And the only other reason why Spencer Dinwiddie is starting at the 2 guard is because we really found a rhythm with having 2 ball handlers on the court at all times. And I think he's wanting to keep that going. But if you look at Reggie Bullock, he's a lockdown 3-and-D guy. You look at Dorian Finney-Smith, another 3-and-D guy. And then you put a little bit of rim protection with JaVale McGee. And then with the type of defensive set that the Mavericks run is actually the same defense that Frank Vogel and those guys ran when Jason Kidd was an assistant in L.A. So JaVale McGee, he knows that system, and so he's able to come in and plug and play from day one. So that's the reason why. But then also, and I think Kidd's looking at it this way. He's like, all right, my starting lineup isn't going to be the best starting lineup in the world, but if we can move Christian Wood to the bench and put him on the bench with Tim Hardaway and Maxi Kleber, you've got a pretty solid, decent bench when you start looking at other benches across the league. So that's why Christian Wood's coming off the bench.
Yeah, I get it. And I mean, Taylor and I, we had so many debates on Christian Wood and his outlook over the past offseason. And I've thought that Christian Wood is a perfect fit in Dallas. I think that's the perfect culture for him. That's a perfect situation. I'm just really curious to see, a guy that's been in the league for that long, bounced around so many teams. I'm just really curious, like,
hasn't been on a winner yet.
Hasn't been on a winner yet. Like, he's never experienced that culture. So I'm just really curious, like, is he going to adapt quickly, or is he going to be a guy that's upset about coming off the bench, and that's going to affect his play as well? Obviously, he's not too big of a fan of playing defense anyways, but, when you're playing in Houston, you're winning 20 games a season, I wouldn't care too much on defense anyway. So who is the real Christian Wood? And honestly, I think that question is going to be the determining factor with this team. Obviously, Luka is good enough to get these guys in the conference finals basically by himself, but he needs a little bit of help to get over that edge. And so I think the supporting cast, Christian Wood in particular, is a big X factor in that decision.
Yeah, y'all covered basically everything that I think too. So where do we want to put them down? Are they going to win 50-plus games again?
I think they'll be around it. But, however, can I sit here and lie to you and say I think they're going to make the Western Conference Finals again? No, I can't do that. But I think that they'll be a solid team. I think you've got Luka Doncic is like a top 5 to 7 player in the league, however you want to spin it, right? I think they're going to make the playoffs. And so if I had to go with anything, I'm going with the buzz McDonald's.
Honestly, I think you might be a little too modest because that's your home team, because I was actually going to put them as Chipotle. I think with the right luck, these guys could make a finals run. That might be me being a little too bullish on Luka in particular, just because he just blows me away watching him play. I think he is that good that he can carry them to the finals by himself. But I don't know. I would lean towards Chipotle. What do you think, Taylor?
I'm right in between both of them, but, I lean towards the star players. So, with some luck, Luka can take you to a chip. He can take you there. I mean, he is that good. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Chipotle with Dallas there. But, they're just a really solid team. They're not in that upper echelon, but they're good enough. If there's some injuries to those top-tier teams, they got a shot.
Oh, yeah, and I think if they get the right breaks, obviously Spencer Dinwiddie started to catch on a little bit last year, started to look more like his old self. I think if you get that Spencer Dinwiddie and you get Christian Wood at his best, where he's, 18 and 10, spacing the floor, running that pick and pop with Luka, getting open looks, and actually being engaged on the defensive end, I think you put those things together, and the sky's the limit for this team, especially when you've got a guy like Luka on the squad.
Yep.
And, guys, I also think that this team is one of those teams to watch towards the trade deadline. I could really see some activity going
100%.
With that team. So, anyways, let's go ahead and move to the home of the reigning MVP, Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets. So, Taylor, where do you think these guys are going to land going into this season?
All right, so you come to me first. I am a huge Nuggets supporter, man. Jamal Murray back healthy. Give me Michael Porter Jr. healthy. Now, my outlook completely changes. If these guys can't stay healthy, then, they'll just be a play-in type team like they have been, with Jokic just carrying the load. But, Jamal Murray, if he is anywhere near what he was in the bubble a few years back, I mean, these guys are straight-up contenders. I love Murray. The Caldwell Pope 3-and-D-wise, he's awesome. Bones Highland, what a steal there. That guy can just get buckets. Bruce Brown, the smallest power forward I've ever seen, basically. So, these guys, they won 48 games last year. Let's add 10 games to that. Let's get them near 60 wins. That's what I'm looking at.
Near 60 wins. That's a bold one. That's a bold one for sure.
And Taylor, I agree with you, man. You got, people don't realize, man, Jokic did what he did last year, kind of basically by himself. It was, him and a whole bunch of plumbers out there, but, and shout out to JJ Redick. But I think with Michael Porter Jr. coming back fully healthy and Jamal Murray being back fully healthy, dude, you got to think this team was right there in the cream of the crop of teams just a few years back, right? Like in that bubble, that team was right up there with the Lakers. People forget that stuff, right? And I think that this team is going to be considerably better than they were last year. If they won 48 games last year with just Nikola Jokic, it's just not out of the realm of possibility for them to win 10 more games.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. I think the Nuggets are really kind of the sexy, trendy pick to win the title this year. But, I mean, it's hard to disagree with that, right? As far as they went, as good as they were last year with, like you said, Jokic basically doing it all by himself. Big fan of Jamal Murray's game. That battle that he had with Donovan Mitchell in the bubble a couple years ago, if he can get anywhere close to that for him. And then, yeah, Michael Porter Jr., his game is so fun to watch. If he can decide to commit a little bit of effort on that defensive end, the sky's the limit with them as well. I don't really have any objections. I think these guys are Chick-Fil-A 100%.
Yep, Chick-Fil-A for sure. I do have one thing to say about that, though. More of a question, actually. They win 60 games, right? Are they one of those teams that are more of a regular season team, like that, but their play doesn't quite translate to them getting to finals?
I could see that, but however, I think Jamal Murray's big play ability, I think he's just made for the playoffs. And then, and watch me be wrong this year, but man, I've got a lot of faith in Jamal Murray with the ball in his hands, in clutch situations in the playoffs. I think you add that to Jokic, I think that's going to be a tough beat and tough out in the playoffs.
Yeah, especially because Jokic really thrives in a half-court setting too, right? When you slow the game down, obviously in the playoffs, the game's going to slow down a lot. That's really where Jokic thrives. I don't know if I'm bullish enough to think that they'll win 60 games in the regular season. I do think they could get close, but I do think that this isn't a team that I'd be too worried about falling off once it gets to the playoffs. They have the experience. They've all been in the playoffs for a few years now, and I think Jokic is just thriving in a half-court setting. So, yeah, I think these guys can make a run, and no one would look twice about it for sure. They're a contender.
Detroit basketball. So they've got my guy Cade Cunningham from Texas. I love Cade. I love everything that they've got going on. But Chance, where do you think Detroit lands this season, and do they improve at all from last year?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that they could take a little jump. I love their draft, getting Jaden Ivey, who I think is kind of like a mini-me Ja Morant, the way he plays. He's so explosive getting up and down the court. I think he's a very interesting pairing with Cade Cunningham. And also love Jalen Duren. Shout out to Memphis. I think he's a great big man fit next to them. Obviously, will take a little bit of time to develop. I think this is a great young team. Really love the future outlook. As far as this season, I definitely think they'll end up being in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. I don't see them really making a run to even sniff that play-in. I just think there's too many talented teams in the NBA right now for them to really be sniffing the play-in tournament. So I would put them in Captain D's, but it's one of those situations where, like, I'm really going to enjoy going there. Like, I'm actually going to really enjoy watching the Pistons. I just don't think we'll get a lot of wins on the board this year.
Yeah, actually, I love this young core. Really love this young core. Sadiq Bey. Oh my gosh, I love that guy. I talk about him 24/7.
He's a baller, man.
Oh man, that guy's a bucket. I love watching him play. But the Bogdanovich edition, I know some people are high on him as far as just being a presence, a 3-and-D type guy, veteran presence, but Bogdanovich is really aging to me. I've been watching him play. I don't know. I don't think he'll make much of an impact with this team. So, although I think they'll be a lot of fun to watch, I don't think they'll sniff the play-in. I still don't think they'll sniff the play-in with just how youthful they are. So I'm going to go ahead and put them down in the Wembanyama sweepstakes.
Yeah, for sure. They're Captain D's. All right, let's talk about a team that has always been in the news, the Golden State Warriors. So they just re-signed Poole. He got a bag, and then they went ahead and then less than 24 hours later, they went ahead and gave Andrew Wiggins a bag, and Draymond Green is just still there.
I think they pulled some of Draymond's fine money that's accumulated, and that's what they used to pay off the other guys at this point.
Yeah, they had to do something to pay that luxury tax bill. But so do the champs, do they repeat this year, or do they disappoint us?
Honestly, I think they've got just as good a chance as anybody to get back to that finals and repeat. I mean, I don't really see Steph or Klay taking a step back. If anything, I think Klay will look even closer to his former self after having a full year. Typically, you see that with guys coming off an ACL, and especially, the double injury that he had. I think
Wiggins becoming that lockdown.
Yeah, Wiggins has just finally found the right spot for him. You love to see that. I mean, you look up and down this roster, you've got guys like Moses Moody and Kuminga who showed a lot of promise last year, continuing to be depth pieces. James Wiseman, the X Factor, can he look like the guy that they picked him number 2 to be? I think this team has just as good of a chance as anybody to make the finals this year. I think they're Chick-Fil-A all the way.
Yeah, and I look at it too, Chance. You look at one of the Warriors' biggest weaknesses last year was just the lack of size, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Kevin Looney was great in certain series, right? Like against Dallas teams, they didn't necessarily have a big, but then he struggled at times sometimes against certain bigs. But then you go out and you're able to bring in James Wiseman, who's been looking solid so far. Knock on wood.
Yeah, great preseason.
Yeah, he's been looking great in the preseason. It looks like he's really took that time he took it seriously and gained some muscle and gained a lot of skill over his time out. I think they really answered that just by bringing that one piece back. And we're not even talking about the addition of DiVincenzo this offseason as well, giving them another guard in their rotation to where they don't necessarily have to rely on a 55-year-old Iguodala. I think this team is a solid team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're definitely a contender. This front office has really set them up and put them in position to win now and as far as internal growth goes, one of the best for that too. You know, they are able to take these young players and really develop them, and they got some great talent down that roster, some young players. I mean, Moses Moody, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, Jordan Poole. I mean, these guys are 22, 23 years old, and they have nowhere to go but up. And they are surrounded by veterans who know how to play ball. I mean, so to be honest, I think they may repeat. They really may. If these young guys are any better this year than they were last year, which I fully expect, they definitely could.
It's only one way to go with a lot of those guys is up, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of you think about it last year that like Kuminga, Moody, and then even Wiggins is still young. We kind of forget that, right? Like you put a finals run under these guys, just to think about how they're going to come back this year. I mean, I think they're an exciting team to watch.
Yeah, I'm with you guys for sure. I think they've got that perfect mix of the veterans and the youth waiting in the reins. And so, I mean, this is a team that they can survive Steph turning an ankle, missing 3 or 4 weeks, Draymond going rogue and fighting someone else and getting suspended. Like, they've got the depth behind these guys to really not miss a beat. So, yeah, I don't see any situation where they're not contenders this year.
You know what's crazy is that Draymond situation, think about if that happened on any other, like literally any other team in the league. We would be like, oh, it's over with for that team. You know? Like this
Not
team,
with Draymond. Yeah. Slap on the wrist. See you at ring night.
Well, I'm just talking about just from the sheer standpoint of like the Warriors organization just always just handling stuff and keeping things under control, right? Like most teams, like it would be like, oh, we got to trade everybody, but we just know that the Warriors are going to handle this, right? And then they'll probably still find a way back in the finals.
Right. And it was interesting how Steve Kerr even reacted to it. Like I couldn't tell if he was more upset about the punch or the leak. I feel like he was more upset that it got leaked out than the fact that Draymond literally punched his shooting guard in the face. But, you know.
Yeah. What's the most recent type incident like this that happened? Was it the Bobby Portis Meritich?
Yeah, the Bobby Portis one is the most recent. People also forget Tony Allen actually punched O.J. Mayo on the plane.
Yeah.
Taylor, you probably remember this. I think it was like over a gambling card game or something like that.
Yeah, they still had nothing on Gilbert Arenas, though.
NBA definitely never lacks drama, and we can always thank Draymond for keeping that alive, and I'm sure he will in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and move on to the Houston Rockets. So not a lot going on in Houston. I mean, they drafted Jalen Green last year, and then this year they went ahead and added to their young core with Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Ty Washington. I think this team is clearly a Captain D's level team, but what do you think what leap do you think this team makes this year?
As far as the Rockets go, you know, they're definitely a Captain D's type team. But they do have a lot of young budding stars possibly. You know, Jabari Smith could be a freak of nature on the offensive end. You know, you got Jalen Green.
And the defensive end too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets after it.
Eric Gordon, you know, likely, I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved at the trade deadline.
For sure.
Kevin Porter Jr. just got a bag, but, you know, there's definitely clauses in that. Explain that, Chance.
Yeah, so apparently he signed, it was more like an NFL-type deal. So it was a 4-year deal, but the only year guaranteed was the first year. So $15 million of it was guaranteed. So it was an 80-year deal, but only the first year is guaranteed. So it's basically a situation where they're like, okay, you're a head case. We're going to give you this money, but you have to act right, and literally at any point we can just waive you and not have to pay you that money. So I think it's an interesting situation. I've never really seen a deal like that in the NBA, but I think that could also make him a great trade asset if things don't work out because you can pitch that off to another team.
What was it, 4 years, $82 million?
Yeah, it was around $82 million with $15 million on the first year guaranteed. So I think that's a low-risk move for them if he works out. He's got all the talent in the world. Similar to Christian Wood, I think it's just a situation of can he put his head down and actually do what he needs, not quit games at halftime and all the other crazy stuff that was going on. But, yeah, I think it's definitely a Captain D's type team, but they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. And if they can play their cards right, possibly get Wembanyama next year, then you have a core of Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, and Wembanyama, then we're going to start talking about this team moving its way up to the more upper echelon of fast foods. But for now, they're Captain D's for sure.
And one of the guys I low-key am interested in to watch develop this year is Sengun. I was high on him out of the draft. And, you know, last year he showed some flashes. So I'd love to see him progress even more this year. I like that guy a lot.
Yeah, they have all the young talent for sure. I think this is a team that in a couple years will be telling a completely different story.
All right, so the Indiana Pacers. So last year, they made that big blockbuster trade, right, where they went and got Tyrese Halliburton, and they kind of just turned the leaf and start to move really young, right? They got Chris Duarte starting at 2 guard next to Tyrese Halliburton in the backcourt. I think that's probably one of the best young backcourts in the league with those two guys. Where do you think these guys end up this year, Taylor?
They may be the leader in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. Buddy Hield and Miles Turner, they're on their way out. Let's be honest here. If either of them last past the trade deadline, I'll be surprised. Especially Buddy. Buddy's got to be gone at trade deadline.
100%.
With that contract and everything. Yeah, they're definitely gonna move some pieces. They're gonna try to get the best draft pick possible and then also add some others. So these guys, they may not win 20 games, but you got Tyrese to build around, and that's all that matters in their minds.
Yeah, I think there's another team, definitely see them as a Captain D's type team, but they have some sneaky good talent. I really love Tyrese Halliburton. Benedict Mathurin, I think, could end up being one of the steals of the draft. This guy, he is not going to tank if he has anything to say about it. He's going to get out there and get after it. And I'm really looking forward. I think they could be a sneaky league pass team because of him and Halliburton alone. Obviously, Chris Duarte spreading the floor will be fun to watch. I'm with you. I think Buddy and Miles Turner end up getting moved at the deadline. I think they're just going to commit fully to the rebuild as they kind of have already by making the move for Halliburton, getting rid of Sabonis. But
the more games they win, the more likely Buddy and Miles are on the move.
Oh, yeah, 100%. If these guys are floating around that 10 seed around the trade deadline, there's no chance these guys stick around. They're sending them out for whatever they can get. They might take Captain D's in return for real just to get these two guys off their roster.
Yeah, so Captain D's it is.
Captain D's, moving on.
All right, so let's talk about Clip City. So, guys, this team is a beast, all right? So, in my opinion, I'm just going to go out there and say it. I'm putting them in the Chick-Fil-A category. Do we have any objections?
No, I don't think you can object to that. I think getting Kawhi and a healthy Paul George back, I mean, there's just no scenario where these guys are healthy and these guys aren't contenders. I mean, you bring in John Wall, I think that's a low-risk move for them. He could really elevate them as well. And this team is just, they're so deep, man. They've got, like, really all 15 of these guys can get out and give productive minutes at any point. When you've got guys like Terrence Mann who are just fighting to even get on the court, that just tells you how much depth this team has, where even if Kawhi or Paul George take extended absences, they've got guys that can fill right in. I mean, the games that these guys were winning last year with the guys they were putting out there, they had no chance winning as many games as they did. I think they're very well coached, and they're an obvious contender for sure.
Yeah, the power of Ty Lue is something that is just amazing, man. It's crazy to think a few years back when they won that ring in Cleveland, I really wasn't that high on Ty Lue, but I think Ty Lue has just made himself into be one of the best coaches in the league, if not the best coach in the league. I think you give Ty Lue a roster like this, I don't see how they don't win. The only thing that I have a question is health. Can Kawhi and PG stay healthy? If they can, to me, they make the finals. But health is a big thing when you start talking about the Clippers.
Yeah, for sure. Paul George and Kawhi, the only thing that'll derail them is season-ending injuries. Now, they got the depth to survive. I mean, even if one of those guys miss 50, 60 games, if they're available in the playoffs, they're a contender. With the addition of Rob Cove, I mean, Kawhi or Paul George goes down, he fits right in there.
Yep.
He can give you solid minutes. He's a great plus-minus guy. Norman Powell, I mean, same thing. 3-and-D, solid player. Luke Kennard can shoot the cover off the ball.
Luke Kennard, I don't think has missed a three since pre-pandemic. This guy is automatic.
No, man, no.
So I mean, we're not worried about this team. I mean, unless something like last year happens where you lose season-ending injury for Kawhi and Paul George. Well, he missed a bunch of games too, but they have more depth now than they ever had before.
So Taylor, where you putting them?
Chick-fil-A all the way.
100%. Can't disagree.
All right, so let's go ahead and move to the Los Angeles Lakers. So, guys, are they back? Is it time for them to start winning again? Or
I'll go first on this one. No. Taylor?
Everything in my body wants to say they're just going to stink again. But it's the sharp side of me. I'm a big-time gambler. everybody and their mama is expecting them to stink again.
But is it? I mean, a lot of people are expecting this team just because they have LeBron James to make a playoff run.
Look at this roster. I mean, it is just putrid. Outside of LeBron and Anthony Davis, it is just a bunch of garbage. But maybe they just have some breaks go their way, you know. Maybe they get to a McDonald's. I got a lean play-in type team. But, I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Davis is, back to bubble type Anthony Davis, and he stays healthy and he really contributes. If he does that, then yeah, there'll be a 4 to a 6 seed if he plays that kind of way. Now, is he healthy enough to do that? It's hard for me to believe that he will be, but if he does, they could be a McDonald's for sure. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go with they're definitely a Patrick Beverly playing star for sure.
Okay, guys, Lakers fans, I know you're out there. Let me give you a glass half full approach to this. You guys have two of some of the greatest players of all time, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis. LeBron James might be getting older. This might be on, year 20 now?
I think this is year 20.
Year 20 of LeBron. I get it. However, LeBron still has proven to have some game left in him. You got Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, he had one of his first full off seasons in a while, right? With back being healthy, and they said he's trying. They said he's looking good, right? They're saying he's looking healthy. With the addition of Darvin Ham, and Darvin Ham told AD, "Hey, you're going to play some 5 this year,"
and he was not happy about that.
And not at all. But
he spoke about himself in third person. He said, "They know what Anthony Davis wants. Anthony Davis wants to play the 4. We'll see how that goes."
Exactly. But we know for this team to be a great team, AD's gonna have to play some 5. That's at this point.
They literally won the championship that way. You have to.
For what they do, he has to play the 5, right? And then Darvin Ham, he did it again. And then when he got done with AD, he went down the hall and hollered at Westbrook and said, "You're gonna have to come off my bench."
But it's not a demotion.
It's
just a realignment.
It's just a realignment. If Westbrook can star in that 6-man role as a leader off the bench, where you just say, "Hey, Westbrook, here's the ball," and just go do what you did in OKC all those years, I think that's probably the best situation for him. I mean, well, honestly, if that doesn't work for him, honestly, his career is probably in jeopardy after this year, right? If he can't own that role. But I think you put him and then, someone like Patrick Beverly off the bench, I think that's a solid foundation of something. Granted, the lack of shooting on his roster is just god-awful. So I think that's going to come back to get him. But I think in a best-case scenario, I could see how this team could make the playoffs if Anthony Davis and Westbrook decide to buy in to what Darvin Ham is saying.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point, but can we really expect Russell Westbrook after all this time to really buy in to a change role, and then Anthony Davis, who literally won a championship playing the 5, to still, at this time, be making the comments that he's making? I don't know. I think this team is going to be pretty bad. I think, best case scenario, they're in the play-in. Maybe they sneak in, but are they really winning a series against the Nuggets or against the Warriors or a full-strength Clippers? I just don't see it. They don't have many assets. They can trade a 2028 and 2030 first-round pick and go get like a Buddy Hield, Miles Turner type package, possibly.
If they do that, they're a McDonald's.
Then you can start discussing like if they really want to just go full out for this year. Obviously, you've only got LeBron for a couple more years, and then he's going to go chase Bronny and then do whatever at the end of his career. So, if they're going to go all in, they'll do it this year. But as the roster currently stands, I am excited to watch this team every night. They'll be on national television every night. We'll get to watch the implosion that is, but I don't think this team's going to be very good as it currently stands. I think they're a Dairy Queen type team for sure.
Does that roster get to 40 wins? Do they get to 500? Can they go 41-41?
As the roster currently stands, I do not think this team could even be 500, not in the West.
Hey, guys, the key words I said there? I said I was giving a glass half full approach to the opinion of this. Do I actually think that the Lakers are going to be in the McDonald's or the Chipotle category? The answer to that is hell no. So I'm putting them in the Dairy Queen All-Stars. Patrick Beverly, you got it.
But hey, if they do sneak into a play-in game and get the win, we'll see the celebration like no other from Patrick Beverly. Back-to-back play-in winner. That would be a sight to see.
And hey, don't count them out. If LeBron had a season-ending injury, they could win that Wembanyama sweepstakes.
They don't have
They don't have their pick, though.
They don't have their pick.
Oh, you're right.
That would be the most.
So that would go to New Orleans,
Gosh, I need them to stay away
Yeah.
from that. I don't need New Orleans with that.
Zion, Wembanyama,
No.
Brandon Ingram trio.
Oh,
Stay healthy, LeBron. Stay healthy, my guy,
God.
please.
LeBron, you got to do it for the rest of the
Fight
league.
through it.
All right, so let's talk about this hometown team, the Memphis Grizzlies, guys. So these are both of you guys' Memphis Grizzlies. How do you think they're going to fare this season?
I'm high on them. I know the public opinion's a little lower. Grizzlies are really counting on internal growth. They didn't go out. They didn't make any splashy type moves. They're just trying to take draft picks, on rookie contracts and develop these guys into players. And I fully expect Klyman, who's the GM at Memphis, his plan is to take these players, grow them, and then when there's an opportunity that comes in front of him for another superstar player that he wants, the perfect fit, he'll make that move. He's not against it. And then he'll have these rotation players that are on these rookie contracts, filling out the roster. I really think that's the road he's headed on. As far as the Grizzlies go, can they get 56 wins again? Yeah, that's a positive outlook, though. Jaren Jackson, how many games is he going to miss? 20 games, 30 games? We don't know for sure. With this front office, they don't give us any updates. So, I'm gonna look around that 55 win total, and probably looking somewhere between a 3 and a 6 seed.
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on. Like you said, clearly the focus was on internal growth. I think a lot of guys expected the Grizzlies to make a move. Obviously, they're in the KD sweepstakes for a moment. Anytime there was a big player available, it seemed like the Grizzlies were kind of poking their head, seeing what kind of value they could get, but ultimately they went the route of just building up long-term. And honestly, I think that's the right move, right? You've got so many contenders in the West with Jamal Murray coming back in Denver, with New Orleans taking a step up, and then obviously the Clippers are going to be there. I think they're really playing the long game here and saying, hey, we're going to get these draft picks. We're going to get guys that fit the system, your Jake LaRavias, your David Roddies, get guys that are going to be good rotation guys that don't need the ball in their hands for 4 to 6 years, and just build around your superstar, build around Ja. I think that, the sky's the limit with Ja Morant. You never know what could happen with him, especially if Jaren gets healthy and can take that jump on the offensive end. Obviously, he made a big jump on defense last season. Santi Aldama has looked great in the offseason. It looks like he could be a guy that could kind of fill that role a little bit while we wait for Jaren to get back. I think this team, I would put them in Chipotle, right? I think they could be a contender similar to what they were last year. They sniffed near the top of the playoffs, a couple breaks, right? They could make a run. Yeah. I don't think they're quite in that level of contenders yet. I just don't think I could put them.
Trade deadline move could put them there.
Yeah, and I think a move centered around Dillon Brooks and some pieces could get them somewhere. I'm really curious to see how things go with Dillon Brooks. It's been a while since he's really actually been a fourth option. With last year, he only played like 30 or so games. Most of those Ja was out. And, before then, he was always more of a second or third option type of guy. But now that you've got Ja, you've got Desmond Bane taking that another leap. And then with Jaren back, is Dillon Brooks going to accept being the fourth option on offense? You know what he's going to bring you on defense every game, but what kind of decisions will he make on the offensive end? So I think they're a Chipotle-type team. It really depends on those situations. Zach, as an impartial viewer, what do you think? Are we spot on here?
Yeah, I think you guys are right. But, I kind of feel like they're in a similar situation to Dallas as well, like where I can see a lot of things going wrong and making them in a McDonald's category. Like, this Jaren situation lasts for a lot longer than we planned for it to. Santi Aldama doesn't live up to expectations. And then the Grizz, they surprised everyone last year. And then, now people know what's coming for them. I could see those as being some of the things to watch out for, but if I had to bet on anything, yeah, I'd put them in the Chipotle category.
Yeah, I think the biggest question with the Grizzlies this season is their depth. Losing Kyle Anderson, losing DeAnthony Melton, those were two big rotation guys that were giving productive minutes last year, especially just on the IQ side of things on defense. They're always in the right place. They're poking balls away. Those kinds of things. Will you get that from a rookie Jake LaRavia or from a rookie David Roddy? I don't think you will.
All right, let's go ahead and take that jet on down to South Beach. Jimmy Butler, does he still have dreads in his hair right now?
Who knows with that guy?
we'll
I know
find
he's
out.
listening to country music.
Yeah. Jimmy's an interesting fella. So, where do you think these guys will rank this year?
Every time I want to say the Heat are not going to be that good, they do it again. And I guess that's Spoelstra, ain't it?
Yeah,
it's got to be Spoelstra.
That's what a coach will do.
Oh, man, he's awesome. He is one hell of a coach. Jimmy Butler, he's a solid player. He's just a great 3-and-D guy. He's a good leader. He hates to lose. But Lowry, he's on the back end of his career. Bam Adebayo, great defensive player also. Victor Oladipo, I mean, he gave good minutes last year. Hero got the bag.
Oladipo's supposed to be fully healthy this year.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he can definitely give some solid minutes again, but he's not some great piece or anything anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that, though.
53 wins last year. I give them, let's go 5 less. I want to say 48. I think they take a little bit of a step back, but I don't see them falling out of the playoff picture.
Yeah, I definitely think they're a playoff team for sure. I mean, but I also definitely just don't see them back in that Eastern Conference Finals. I think last year they had a lot of breaks with Chris Middleton going out. That kind of helped them get a little further as well. I don't know. When I look at this team, obviously they've got a lot of guys that are just winners, right? Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry. They've got guys that'll do the little things. But at the end of the day, like when you just need guys that are going to go out and get you a bucket, Jimmy Butler will do that. Tyler Hero, if he's having a good night, maybe. But when you really need consistent offense, I just don't trust the Heat to keep up with some of these other teams in the East. Like, are they really going to have enough power to beat the Bucks or the Celtics in a 7-game series when you get to the playoffs? I just don't see it. I think these guys are – I think they're playoff teams. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think they're a McDonald's. I don't – even if things go right, I don't see them making the finals.
Yeah, not a hot take at all. I agree with you. McDonald's
for me also.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're going to be back to where they were.
All right, guys. So the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, they're bringing the same team back, and they're trying to run with it again this year. So, where do you think the Bucks land out this year?
I think this is an easy one to me. I think these guys are contenders all the way. I mean, how can you not be with Giannis, right? They're basically bringing back the exact same team that they had last year. The key is just can Chris Middleton get back and stay healthy? He's dealing with the wrist thing from the offseason, so he'll miss the first couple weeks of the season. But, I mean, I think this is as clear as it gets. If these guys are healthy when it gets to the playoffs, that's a no-brainer contender team to me. I mean, I just see no holes in their game. Giannis continues to do things that we've never seen before. I see no situation where these guys aren't at least in the conference finals.
It gets better every single year.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's and I agree with you on that 100% chance. Now, Taylor, do you think like there's an interesting storyline to watch with the Bucks? I mean, we obviously think that they're going to be contenders. We know Giannis is going to be a big-time player, probably win another MVP this year. Is no telling. What do you expect from the Bucks this year, and do you think it's something that we need to keep an eye on?
The Bucks, they're just a solid team. As far as the team goes, they're pretty deep. They got shooters, they got defenders, they got rebounding. They got it all. But outside of Giannis, Drew Holiday, I like Drew a lot as a defensive point guard. But outside of Giannis's playmaking, do they have someone that can really, get the ball to other people in good spots? Like if Giannis has any kind of setback, any kind of, maybe he plays through the injury, who's going to move that ball around? Who's going to get guys open shots? That's my question, because I just don't see True as that kind of point guard anymore. I don't see him get much separation, as far as burst goes. He's not some guy with great burst or anything like that. So, I think they're probably a top 3 seed. If anything happens with Giannis, their championship aspirations just go out the window, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they have a lot of aging pieces, right? Drew Holiday, Wes Matthews, been in the league forever, but they just continue to get it done. So there's definitely a situation where they take a slight step back because of that, especially if Giannis is to miss some time. Curious to see, does Giannis go hard for that MVP again? He let Jokic have it for a couple of years, and it got to a situation where it's like, do we really just want to keep giving it to Giannis all the time? So is he going to really play 35 minutes a night and really go for that MVP? That's really the only storyline I can really think of with this team. I think we pretty much know what we're getting from them. They're going to be a contender at the end. But really curious to see if there's a fully healthy Brooklyn Nets or if the Celtics continue to get back again. how do they look in a 7-game series? Do they have enough playmaking, like you mentioned, to really elevate in a series like that?
Yeah, I like the Bucks in the championship if the Nets don't, put it all together. I like them to get back there.
Let's move on up to Minnesota. So, obviously, this team went all in by making a big move for Rudy Gobert, giving up all those draft picks. They also signed Kyle Anderson this offseason. What do you guys see in the plan for Minnesota?
Minnesota, they have the same exact over-under win total as the Grizzlies. So my first question for y'all is, who do you like more? Do you like this Minnesota roster, or do you like the Grizzlies roster?
So I'm going to give my answer on that. This might be a hot take, but I believe the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be a monster in the regular season. I think when you sit there and you look at their team, now obviously Karl Anthony Towns has been dealing with some health stuff recently, and hopefully he comes back and he's okay. He lost 30-something pounds, or whatever in the summer. But all aside, I think Anthony Edwards is going to be better this year.
Man, he's awesome.
I think he's going to take that next leap. I think for the longest, I can see him taking that Ja Morant type leap that Ja made just this past year. I can see that coming out of Anthony Edwards, and if he does that and he puts all that together, the Timberwolves, they have a chance to do something really special this year. However, I see them being a great regular season team. I can see this team being anywhere from number 1 in the West to number 8 in the West, or even number 10 in the West, just depending on how things shake. But when you start talking about the playoffs, that's really where my concern really comes in when you start talking about this team. It's been kind of proven that it's hard to win with two bigs on the court in the playoffs in a lot of capacity just because of modern era of basketball. So that's one thing I'm a little concerned about when it gets down to the postseason. But I could easily see in the regular season Rudy Gobert just really improving the Minnesota Timberwolves defense, and just allowing Karl Anthony Towns just go out there and just go get a bucket, and I think he'll free him up in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I think Towns can eat at the 4. I think he can absolutely eat at the 4 position. This team, they're one of those teams, like I asked y'all about the Nuggets earlier. Are they going to be better in the regular season than the playoffs? Y'all said they'll be just as good in the playoffs. This is one of those teams, I side with you. I think they will be a great regular season team. As far as the playoffs go, I'm going to have to see it to believe it, especially last season against the Grizzlies. Fourth quarter, they just melt. They just melt down, and that's just a thing with them. And I think that's it's almost like Karl Anthony Towns to me. That's his persona almost. In the clutch, that guy, he just shrinks. And I think the team kind of follows that. If Anthony Edwards can come up and be the top dog and he's like, we're going to be winners, guys. He turns in like a Jimmy Butler kind of guy, and he just wants to freaking win, and that team takes on that persona, that the sky's the limit for the team. But something like that has to happen.
Yeah, I think you guys are pretty spot on with your analysis of them. I see them as a great regular season team. I do think they could win more games than a team like Memphis this season just because they have a great starting lineup. I think Rudy Gobert is a great fit next to D'Angelo Russell, that guy that really thrives off having that on-ball screener, not necessarily an ISO guy, but he's never really played with a pick-and-roll type of player like Rudy Gobert. I think that could be a great part of their offense. Anthony Edwards, definitely see him taking a leap up, but as far as long-term and especially in the playoffs, I'm not sold on the fit of Towns and Gobert on the 4 and the 5. I just think that Towns is going to have a hard time closing out against other 4s. And, you mentioned how he struggled in the playoffs. Rudy Gobert has had some of the same situations in Utah of struggling in the playoffs as well and even getting played off the court at times. You can argue about whether that was his fault or some of the perimeter guys in front of him. But I see this as a great regular season team. I would put these guys as McDonald's, though. I don't think, even with the right breaks, I do not see a team like this getting to the finals. What do you guys think?
I'm loving it. I agree with you.
Y'all go McDonald's. I'll go with Chipotle.
You think so?
Two of the 3, McDonald's. I really believe that team they can sneak in there up into that 3-4 seed area, and if they catch some breaks, who knows what happens? They could be in the Western Conference Finals.
I think possibly ceiling Western Conference Finals, but that would mean they would have to beat a team like Denver, Golden State,
Man, that's
LA
tough.
in the conference final, or in the conference semifinals.
See it to believe it kind of thing.
Yeah, like I mean, in a perfect world where maybe Kawhi and Paul George run into each other, and at the same time Steph Curry and Klay Thompson get into a car accident, and at the same time, Nikola Jokic gets a DUI and he's out for the season. Like, if all those things happen, then yeah, maybe Minnesota, but I'm just not sold on them being a true playoff team yet. But I could be wrong. They might go out there and it's a seamless fit, and I look like an idiot. We'll see.
All right, let's go on down to the Bayou. We're going down to the New Orleans Pelicans, guys. This is a team that I am pumped about. I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is probably a hot take, but I am putting the New Orleans Pelicans at the Chipotle level.
I think so. Contenders with some luck.
I think they are contenders with luck. I think a lot of people are overlooking them. They've got it all. You sit there and look at their starting lineup: CJ, B.I., Herb Jones, Zion, Jonas at the 5. You sit there and look at that lineup. If everybody stays healthy, you add Zion to that team last year. That was a tough team that made the play-in game. They made the playoffs and ended up getting eliminated in the first round. I could really see this team taking off. I can see this team making it to the Western Conference Finals in a similar fashion that Luka took the Mavs to the Western Conference Finals last year. I think that the Pelicans have all the pieces to do it. I think that Willie Green is a great coach, great young coach. I think that New Orleans is definitely a Chipotle a level team in my mind. I know that's not a popular take, but what do you guys think?
As far as the Pelicans go, I think they're still a year or two away from being a Chipotle type team. Now, we know their struggles. It's defense. It is defense, but they drafted Dyson Daniels for that reason. But he's a rookie. So, Herb Jones is a great defender too. What are you going to get out of Zion, Brandon, and CJ on defense? You're not getting much.
No,
Who's going to stop John Morant? Who's going to stop Luka? Who's going to stop those guys? I just don't think they have it yet. But as far as their young pieces, man, I love them. I love Willie Green, man. He's a great young coach. I like Willie a lot. But, I'm going to side with McDonald's here. And that might be too high for me. But
yeah, I'm with you. I think best case they're a playoff team for sure, but I don't see them as, even with the right runs making a conference finals for the same reasons you outlined, right? Their defense. When you put CJ McCollum, who's never been a plus defender, Brandon Ingram has, kind of laid off on the defensive end lately. Maybe that's because he had such a big burden on the offensive end, and he'll get back to his old ways that he, explored earlier in his career in LA. But obviously Herb Jones will lock down whoever, but, can a Zion, Jonas Valanciunas front court really defend at a high level for a full game? I don't see that either.
Can't
and then
protect
spacing.
the rim.
Yeah, they're not going to protect the rim. Spacing, too. I'm a little bit worried about how they space the floor with this kind of lineup. But, at the end of the day, they have so much talent, too, with Zion, with Brandon Ingram.
And that's
CJ
where I think their talent will get to the point where they're like, screw this defense.
Talent wins out.
Yeah.
They'll go
we'll win 140 to 135. And
yeah, just like the 2000 Suns. You know what I mean? They didn't play a lick of defense with Amari at the 5. I could really see this team taking off somewhere. But y'all both got them at McDonald's. I think let's just roll with that. All right. So let's talk about those New York Knickerbockers. This year they went ahead and they signed Jalen Brunson over the offseason. They're hoping that Jalen Brunson will be the turnaround piece for them this year after they missed the playoffs last year, after they had a little bit of hope going into the season out for the run they had the year before. Do you think that this is the year that the Knicks finally get some stability and start to become a consistent contender in the playoffs?
Knicks. Let's see about them Knicks. Man, this is a tough one. I don't know if this is if I'm high on them because I don't know what y'all think, but I got them as a McDonald's. I think they take a step forward this year. I think R.J. Barrett takes another step forward. I think that's the key.
A huge year coming out of him.
Brunson comes in, he's a solid player. He's going to be a plus to the team. R.J. Barrett, if he takes that step forward, they're going to be a playoff team. You know, Julius Randle, he's so up and down. He's hit or miss. If he gets hot, you know, they could be even better. You know, if he has another hot year. But Mitchell Robinson plus defender, you know, Derrick Rose, he's aging. You know, they got some young guys off the bench, Obi and Emmanuel quickly. How do they develop? You know, we'll see. But McDonald's, you know, around that 40 to 45 wins, it's 5 to 8 more wins than they had last year. I like that, but I don't see any kind of special run out of this team.
Yeah, I definitely don't see a special run. I even think McDonald's might be reaching a little bit. I think these guys are more of a play-in type of team, in my opinion, especially with just how deep the East can be in that 4 to 8 range. I think obviously you add Jalen Brunson, he'll be an immediate contributor, especially on the offensive end. But, you know, they're going to want to play Evan Fournier 35 minutes a game as opposed to giving their younger guys some run. I do think R.J. Barrett could take a leap. Is Julius Randle going to be happy with his role there? You never know with that situation. I think they've got a solid roster on paper, but when I compare them to those other teams around the bottom of the playoff picture, when you look at, you know, your Clevelands, even your Atlantas, teams like that, it's hard to put the New York Knicks above any of them. I think, you know, Brunson was a good move, but I still think they're a year or two away from really contending. I think they need a couple more moves. I could see them being buyers around the trade deadline, and at that point things could be different. But in my opinion, I think they could sneak in, but I definitely see them as a play-in team having to go through that route to get in. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think the New York Knicks are like the parking lot in the middles of McDonald's and a Dairy Queen. It's like you got a McDonald's right here and you got a Dairy Queen right here, and you just sitting in the parking lot trying to figure out which line you're going to hop in based off of how many cars are in the drive-thru.
Yep.
That's how I feel about the Knicks. And I really think that this team, they're starting to put the foundation. A lot of people hated on them for paying Jalen Brunson, but I mean that's what point guards are going for these days, right? And I think their starting lineup isn't bad offensively. You know, you could sit here and talk about they don't really have a true creator, right, for everybody on the offensive end. That might be a little bit of something because Jalen Brunson isn't just a traditional set everybody up type point guard, right? You know what I mean? He's more of a scoring guard from that standpoint. So that might get a little bit interesting from the offense. And then plus 3 of your star players, they all go left every single play.
Yep.
Yeah, strong left hands. This is Southpaw Central, you know what I mean? But the issue I have with the Knicks of not being ready right now is their bench right now. Their bench is just out. Derrick Rose is the most age they got on their bench, right? So there's a whole bunch of young guys that are still trying to figure their way. And if you look at any successful teams, especially successful teams in the playoffs, they usually have veteran presences on their bench, right? And so that's why I'm probably going to have to lean more so the Dairy Queen, just because I think that they're probably a mid-season trade or a couple more roster moves away for being a consistent playoff contender. All right, so the Oklahoma City Thunder. So this offseason, they got younger again. Again, and they're probably, I'm sure they're going to be in the Captain D's Wembanyama Sweepstakes again this season, so they'll get younger again, right? But the big news coming out of Oklahoma City, right? They drafted Chet Holmgren, and then he got injured over the offseason in a pro-am game. So what do you guys think is the outlook for this team? And more specifically, we know this team is going to be tanking again this year, but I kind of want to put a spin on this. And what do you think is the long-term future of the Thunder with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Yeah, see, I'm really curious to see how he handles one more year of just not winning.
God, he's got to hate it.
It's like by January, if the guy turns his ankle, they're shutting him down for the season, and you just know that that's going to be the situation every time, especially when you have a product or a prospect like Wembanyama waiting in the reels here. So I'm just really curious to see if he's okay with that. I do love their long-term future. I'm a big Josh Giddey fan. I think his outlook with Chet, I think they showed a lot of chemistry in their limited action in preseason together or in the summer league together. So I do think you add another piece, even if it's not Wembanyama. There's a lot of other top prospects in this draft where I think in a couple years they could be taking that jump to contenders. But at that point, it's like then Shai's going to be pushing 30, and then it's like you might have to push out for another star. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how he handles things and what their outlook looks like. But obviously this year, it's just going to be a full tank fest for sure.
What was the slogan that the 76ers had when they were rebuilding?
Trust the process, baby.
Trust the process.
Trust the process.
They are taking this to another level.
Does Shea trust the process?
Yeah. And see, I just don't know. I think he was bought in before, but if you're getting ready to play and you're a superstar and you're getting shut down halfway through the season every year, like at some point I could see that causing some turmoil.
Yeah, man, that's a tough one for me, man. And the crazy thing is like a player like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, if he was on a better team, more marketable team, I mean, you sit here and start talking about a player that's dynamic and that's exciting to watch with the basketball. That's kind of what I'm watching here. I mean, that's really the biggest news out of Oklahoma City for me. But
yeah, I think the biggest bummer is just that Chet did get hurt. We don't get to see what he looks like. I think that was a huge question mark. That he's one of the more polarizing prospects of the draft, right? Is this guy the real deal, or is he just going to be a flop? Is he going to be injury prone? I hate that, right off the bat he does get injured. That was just a very unfortunate situation, but curious to see how he bounces back next year.
He was looking good, man.
He was looking amazing.
He was looking like the second coming of Dirk Nowitzki out there, man.
Yep.
With this lengthy arms of defense that could guard like multiple positions. Like Chet was looking amazing. Obviously, the biggest thing is like he's undersized, and that's something that he's gonna have to bulk up to play in this league. This is a grown man league.
Yep.
Imagine if they'd line up him and Wembanyama next to each other. Good Lord.
I guarantee their fans are imagining it every day because that's all they have to look forward to right now. They don't have anything this season.
Well, all right, let's go ahead and go to another team, the team that just recently drafted Paolo Banchero first overall. Where do you think that the Disney World Orlando Magic are going to do this year?
They'll be better. They'll be better this year, for
Think
sure.
so?
Yeah, I think so. I think that franchise is so tired of losing.
They've got to be.
I don't think they're going to try to tank. I really don't. Unless some injuries happen, I don't see them trying to lose as many games as possible.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll necessarily try to tank, but at the end of the day, like no team really tries to tank, right? As far as these guys, they're all getting paid their millions. Like they're OKC may, but as far as the players
that's a
go,
deliberate effort.
Yeah, the players are going out there putting in effort. A couple big things for the Magic team, I don't think they have enough talent to be anywhere other than, in the Wembanyama sweepstakes, Captain D's for sure. But I do like some of their young pieces. I think Franz Wagner has a chance to be really, really special.
Yep.
Really curious to see. Jalen Suggs had one of the most inefficient rookie seasons that a point guard has ever had.
It was mind-boggling.
Yeah. They put a lot of draft capital into him. Can he step up and be that future guard that they need?
One thing I'll say that Jalen Suggs, from a defensive standpoint, he really showed glimpses to me of like lockdown perimeter defense throughout the season. Now, obviously, the offensive side of the ball was a lot of his issues.
Yep.
But if he could just build on that, on just owning being a defensive guard and going from that standpoint, Marcus Smart is a great guard in today's NBA. He can start on most teams in the NBA, right? I think Jalen Suggs can, if he leaned into that, I think he'll be really great. So I'm gonna stand for him on that end.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as offensively, he does need help. And in the backcourt of Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs, it just hasn't been inspiring as of right now. But
yeah, that's a backcourt where you don't have to try to tank. It's just gonna happen.
No, yeah. You got two young guards. Tanking just comes with it. So we're gonna go ahead and put them in Captain D's.
Yeah,
right? We feel good on that.
I think Captain D's is where they belong, but I don't believe they'll be a bottom 5 team. I think they're more around, between 6 and 11, somewhere right in there. They're not the absolute worst.
Right. Yeah, and Paolo looks amazing. He had a great summer league, great preseason.
Love me some Franz.
I think he can really elevate them. Franz looks awesome as well.
Yeah.
So they've got the young talent for sure. I think they could be a year or two away, whether that be Jalen Suggs developing or maybe they get another guard in this draft. But, yeah, I think we'll move on from there.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the Sixers. So they brought in DeAnthony Melton, Montrezl Harrell, P.J. Tucker, and Daniel House this offseason. And then if you see, James Harden looks pretty nimble.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks as of right now that the Sixers are kind of trying to put it all together, and they're figuring it out. They won all their preseason games, if that means anything. Where do you guys see the Sixers going into the year?
I love Joel Embiid. I mean, he is so much fun to watch. He's polarizing.
Monster.
He is polarizing. But I'm just not a huge 76er supporter. I'm not a big believer in them. When it comes down to it, I just don't think they have what it takes to get done. Now, can they get lucky and get to a championship? Yeah, they got the talent to get there. With all these personalities, I don't trust James Harden when it comes down to it. So yeah, I'm gonna have them in the Chipotle category with some luck, or if they just put it all together, they can get there. But more than likely, I don't see them taking down the Nets. I don't see them taking down the Bucks. So
see, I disagree. I think these guys are clear contenders. I think James Harden, even if he can be 75% of his former self, all they need is a guy that can get up there and be a consistent playmaker. He might not be a 30-point per game guy or 30-point per game guy anymore, but I think if he can get them in their offense, and the reason I say that is because I really think Tyrese Maxey is going to have a breakout year.
I love him, man.
I think with Harden creating plays for him, I think he has just gotten so much better from when he came into the league and he basically had that floater and that was pretty much it, right? Now he's elevated his three-point shot, one of the most efficient shooters in the league last year. He can get to the bucket. He's always the fastest guy on the floor. Adding P.J. Tucker, I think, is a really underrated move, too, to build that winning culture. And then you know what you're getting out of Joel Embiid. And then even guys like D'Anthony Melton, as Grizzlies fans, we've seen what kind of intangibles he brings. I think these guys have as good of a chance as anybody to come out of the East. I think they're legit contenders because they have one of the best players in the league in Joel Embiid, and I really believe Maxey takes that step. I think these guys are contenders.
If he takes that step and becomes a budding star, I mean, like a 18, 20-point-a-game scorer, and he's efficient,
I think he'll be there.
They'd be in that category.
I think he's an all-star this year. I'm really bullish on Tyrese Maxey.
I'm on the train as well. I'm putting them in Chick-Fil-A, even though it feels kind of weird because it's almost like they should be in the Chipotle category because they are a contender that needs luck. Because let's face it, James Harden and Joel Embiid have had serious injuries and lingering injuries over the past couple of years. So I do feel like they need just luck as far as in health.
Just staying healthy on their own. Not having to even rely on other teams getting hurt, but them just staying healthy. It takes some luck.
Yeah, their medical staff has a lot of work to do. But I'm going to put them in the Chick-fil-A category along with you, Chance. All right, so let's talk about your number one seeded Phoenix Suns from last year. This team won 64 games last year, but they ended up losing in the second round. Didn't really make a whole bunch of different moves this offseason outside of re-signing DeAndre Ayton off of that the restricted deal that he had signed with Indiana. They brought him back. They're getting rid of an owner and about to get a new owner. How do you guys feel about what's going on in Phoenix?
Got to take a step back, right?
I think it's a big step back. Honestly, I just don't like the vibes in Phoenix right now. I think when you lose by 50-something points in a closeout game like that stuff lingers, the owner situation. And then you got DeAndre Ayton, who they're straight up asking him, are you happy? And he's just like, yeah.
He does not want to be there.
I mean,
not one bit.
Yeah, you've got so much drama over there. Chris Paul continuing to age as well. You've got Jay Crowder wanting out, so now you've got to bring up Cam Johnson into the starting lineup. So when you look at their bench now, who's going to score for the bench?
They didn't extend him, did they? Cam? Did he get extended?
I don't think so. He'll be a restricted free agent after this season. I'm sure they'll do the DeAndre approach and probably just match whatever offer he gets. But they'll have him starting at the 4 this year either way. And I think Cam Johnson's awesome. I think their starting lineup is great, but they have no one behind that. And I really am not comfortable with the locker room vibes that they have. I don't know if this is a hot take as far as being too low, but I think these guys are McDonald's. I don't even see, in the best case, these guys making a conference finals or a championship.
Yeah, I don't either. Just because you sit there and look at their rotation outside of their starting lineup. You sit there and you look at, like I said this in the last pod, you sit there and you look at their bench. You got Cam Payne leading your bench. Like, what did LeBron say? Like, he told him, like, don't forget, be humble. Like, 'cause it wasn't just too long ago he was at the house, So, like, that's something I'm looking at. You got Cam Payne and Landry Shamet leading your bench, and outside is really nothing else to desire. Especially with Jay Crowder leaving. Like, that's a huge rotation.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing with Crowder, right, is he's not some star, but he allows a guy like Cam Johnson to come off the bench to where now when he leaves, you have to slide Cam Johnson up, and that's just one less bench piece.
That's still 20 to 30 minutes a game that they've got to go find from somebody else, right? Torrey Craig is going to fill in those minutes. And we hadn't even talked about they lost JaVale McGee last year.
Yep.
That was a big. That was
some great playoff minutes.
Yeah, that was a big piece for them in their big rotation between him, Ayton, and Biyombo. So I hate to say it. I mean, I don't know why I'm hating to say it. I'm a Mavs fan. But
you're loving this right now. I just want to spend the next 5 minutes talking about that 50-point blowout.
Oh yeah, man. But I hate to say it, but I think their clock has ran up. I'm putting them in McDonald's.
I'm gonna go even hotter take here. I'm throwing them Dairy Queen.
Whoa.
I'm going play-in team.
I think you might be onto something there. The more I look at it, I think you might be right.
I think they drop back from the 1 seed all the way down, and they may be at 9th seed.
You know what? I'm riding with you guys.
I think that might be right. I mean, when you're looking at the Western Conference teams, especially when you've got guys like Jamal Murray coming back, the Clippers are going to be back in it. Even the Lakers, we talk about them. They have some potential to sneak up there if they're a couple moves away. I think they could easily be in the play-in. I think, you know what? I'm just going to pull out of the McDonald's parking lot. I'm going across the street to Dairy Queen, too. I think you might be right.
I think I'm going to tailgate you. I'm right behind you.
All right, moving on.
All right, so the Portland Trail Blazers. All right, guys, what the hell's going on in Portland? Are they going to tank or are they going to try to roll the ball out and play this year?
They're just sitting out in the abyss right now. They don't know.
They're just running the
doing.
treadmill. They've just been running the treadmill for hours.
They're going to let these first 30 games depict what they do. That's exactly what they're going to do. I mean, they got talent in the backcourt. I mean, those guys can get buckets. Anthony and Damian, I mean, they can shoot from anywhere on the court. They can get to the bucket. Grant, they added Jeremy into the equation. He, solid 3-and-D guy. I mean, not the most efficient player whatsoever. Nurkic can't stay healthy. I mean, has he ever stayed healthy? I mean, the guy's injured every year. Hart plays hard. But, I mean, and then you go to their bench. They don't have great depth. They got some guys that play hard. You got Gary Payton and Little. I mean, they play hard. But, I mean, if these guys if Damian and Anthony have a bad shooting night, they'll lose by 40.
Yeah, and the more I look at this team, I just don't see how this is any different than the Dame CJ backcourt, right? You've got two guys that need the ball in their hands, that can score from anywhere, but who are they going to guard, right? When you have the West, when you have all these talented backcourts, like you've got John Morant, Desmond Bane, Stephen Clay, you do not want to be guarding them with Damian Lillard and Anthony Simons. It just reminds me of CJ and Dame all over again, and I see this team as more of like, playing at best, but I don't see them taking a step forward at all.
And just from a size standpoint, this roster is a tiny roster, dude. Like I mean, I get it. Like a lot of these teams are wanting all these switchable players that can play multiple positions and all that stuff now. But you got to think about it. A lot of teams are doing it with guys that roll. A lot of teams are rolling out with 6'5" point guards to 6'8" centers. And Damian Lillard, Anthony Simons, and Josh Hart, they aren't the biggest guys out there. And you got Gary Payton also in that rotation. I'm really interested to see how they're going to be able to combat all that size, not just only in the conference, but also in the East as well.
I think the biggest question with them is, do they even get in the play-in? Are they a top 10 seed in the West this year?
They're just we have no idea. I mean, it's like I said, they're just sitting out. We'll know after 30 games. That's when we'll know. We'll know.
So we're going Patrick Beverly playing stars, right?
Yeah, we'll throw play in for now.
But you think about it. At some point they do have to decide because you don't want to just keep winning games. That's the worst thing that you can do. Sacramento Kings. How you feeling about them, Tyler?
These guys, man, I don't even know what to think about them. I feel like we may all three be in different spots. I don't know what y'all are thinking, but I am down on these guys. I'm not a big fan of this team. I love some of the players. Like, I love De'Aaron Fox. He's fun to watch. Harrison Barnes, he's a solid player. Sabonis is a solid player. And Keegan Murray, I mean, I think he's going to be phenomenal.
Stud.
I think he is going to be great. But
Beast.
Does he make this team a winner this year? No, he doesn't.
Not.
They're going to be sitting around that 30-win mark again, if you ask me. So I don't even know if they're a play-in team. To be honest, they should be. But if anything goes wrong, I mean, if Sabonis goes down, I mean, they're immediately a bottom 5 team in the league.
The only reason I wouldn't put these guys in Captain D's is because they are, for some reason, so committed to climbing up and getting in the playoffs that they will sacrifice their whole future. You know, when I look at this team, I think the clear thing to do right now is get rid of Harrison Barnes, get some future assets, start building for the future, build around, Keegan Murray, Davion Mitchell, De'Aaron Fox. But they just traded their best young prospect, the biggest steal of the draft, and Tyrese Halliburton for a win-now type of team. So it's like, clearly, for whatever reason, these guys just would love to get blown out by the Warriors in the playoffs and get swept. Like, that's all they want to do is get that 8 seed. So I see them as potentially a play-in team just because that is the goal of their organization. But, I mean, no one's excited about these guys. Like, I'll go to Dairy Queen, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
Let me ask y'all a question. If you look at the Kings roster, would you take this roster over the Lakers roster?
No, because it doesn't have LeBron or AD.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, outside of that, I sit there and you look at like the amount of rotation players on this Kings roster.
The supporting pieces are better.
Yeah, they do. They're a deeper roster 1 through 10, I think,
If you
for sure.
put LeBron and AD on this team, it's a title contender.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously they need a stud, right? But I think if De'Aaron Fox can come out and have a breakout season and finally put it all together for a stretch of a full season, you having Davion Mitchell coming off the bench, and he's young, and if he gets better, and then they add Malik Monk to that mix, and then Kevin Huerter, if they come out there and they do what they need to do from a perimeter shooting standpoint, man, I think that this team could be a fun team to watch. I could see this team being a sneaky team and making the playoffs this year, in my opinion. I'm not putting them on McDonald's level, but I definitely will put them on the Dairy Queen level as far as making a play-in game and really surprising someone. I mean, because you think about it then, Keegan Murray, I mean, he was nothing but solid this summer in everything he did. I mean, when you talk about Pro-Am, you talking about Summer League, you talking about playing pickup against his cousins. I mean, Keegan Murray was out here balling all summer long, man, and he really opened some eyes about the type of stuff he could do, because I think going into the draft, I think he was like a lot of people's question marks, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this team could finally put something together and maybe surprise us this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's clearly their goal, right? They've proved that with the Sabonis move, and I think Sabonis, sometimes we forget just how good he looks when he's actually on the court, and I do think he's a solid fit with them. But at the end of the day, like, best case scenario, like I said, you get to that 8 seed and you get swept in the first round. Is that really the best overall outlook for this team?
Trailblazers or Kings? Which one? Who do you like better?
I'm going with the Blazers just because they got a superstar that can carry them to where they need to be.
I'd have to agree. I think the Trailblazers, because of that star power in their backcourt, I think either team would really be a move or two away, but I think the better foundational piece this year would definitely be the Blazers. But I will say, if you're talking long term, I'd probably take the Kings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, if I'm a GM, I'm definitely rolling with the Kings. If I was looking for a new GM job. All right, so it's going down to San Antonio.
Do we have to? Can we just skip this team?
I mean, we honestly can. I mean, we know what they're doing. Wembanyama sweepstakes.
Greg Popovich is like, he's over it. Let's just tank. I mean, this is a clear Captain D's team. Is there anything that we're really excited about? Like, Devin Vassell's a solid prospect, like a future good, like 5th or 6th option on a team.
I don't know what the record is for most losses in a season, but if they wanted to, they could set it.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this roster, there's just nothing to get excited about. Like, every year you've got those teams that are not going to be any good, but they've at least got a couple young pieces that you're like, at least we can tune in, right? Like the LaMelo Ball Hornets back in the day, even the Grizzlies during some of their rebuilding. But like, this team is just not fun at all. Like, I don't even like to think about this team.
Yep, next.
Moving on, they are clear Captain D's, and it's not getting better anytime soon.
They may have won the Captain D sweepstakes.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're like what is the worst thing you can get at Captain D's? Like, what is the worst item on their menu?
I don't know if they win 15 games.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
The worst item on is probably the coleslaw, man.
Yeah, the Spurs are the coleslaw at Captain D.
They are the coleslaw.
At like right before they're closing, when all the workers are just like, whatever, you can just take what's been sitting in the back for 3 days.
It's the coleslaw that's clearly been sitting back there. It's got a little crust around the rim of the lid.
Like, there's not even any potential for anything to get better. That's just all it is. Yeah, we're moving on.
All right, the Raptors, man. This is a team I'm actually kind of excited to see what they do. They've got a lot of good young talent, especially on the wings with Scotty Barnes and OG Anunoby. This is a team where like we're talking about earlier with the Trailblazers just not having enough size. This is a team that's pretty much everybody on that team except Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet is the same size. So that means they can switch and guard multiple positions. That's how Masai likes it. And they bring in Otto Porter this year. I think he's a good, solid rotational piece. I could see the Raptors really kind of having a good building block year. I'm not saying the Raptors are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't see that necessarily in the cards for them, but I could see them giving somebody a tough round in the first round of the playoffs. So I'm gonna go with the McDonald's.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one. I think they're a playoff team. I definitely think that's their ceiling. I think the big key for them is how much does Scotty Barnes get better. I think that was a great draft class, and he was phenomenal in his rookie year, but how much better can he get on the offensive end? Can he continue to expand that jump shot, I think, is the biggest question. And I think just getting these guys some more playoff experience, I don't really see them competing for a conference championship, but also think they have so much talent that they're a clear playoff team. So I think it's definitely a building block type of year. Give Scotty some more experience. We'll see how Siakam looks. I think when he's healthy, he could be a real big cornerstone as well. But I mean, it's a team I'm not super excited about. I just think they're going to be there, but I don't really have high expectations as far as like the ceiling of this team. What do you think?
Yeah, same thing for me. Somewhere between 40 and 45 wins, somewhere between that 6 and 9 seed probably. They'll be solid, play good defense, but they're not going anywhere deep.
Can they win a playoff series?
Can they win a playoff series? Yeah, they could win. They
if
could
they
win.
Get matched up against, a 76ers, a Nets, a Celtics, a Bucks, those are probably the top 4 seeds. Can they beat any of them?
Yeah. I mean,
something would have to go right.
I could see the Raptors just owning the Nets. Like the Nets are that team for me, man. They're either going to carry the Larry O'Brien trophy or they're going to get embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And I could definitely see with the link that Toronto has, they've got enough link to bother everybody on their Nets roster, and then just basically make Ben Simmons shoot the ball, and then just lock down Kevin Durant, and then make it difficult for Kyrie. I can see that happening.
Yeah, and I think that's best case scenario for them this year. They get back in the playoffs, they win a playoff series, get that experience, and then build onto that for next year for sure.
All right, so we're not going to spend too much time on the Jazz because Danny Ainge has clearly made a conscious decision to clean house, and honestly, I mean, I've been really impressed by a lot of his moves that he's made
doing
over
it again.
the offseason.
Yep,
doing it again, loading up on the pitch.
Trust the process again.
He did it in Boston, and he's doing it now. I think they're clear-cut Wembanyama sweepstakes, Captain D's level. Maybe we cover them in a future pod and kind of talk about some of the moves they're making and what does a long-term potential look like for those guys. But right now, I don't know if there's much for us to talk about there. Do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, what can you get from Mike Conley, who's aging, kind of took a decline on the past year? Can you get some draft capital for him? Besides that, they've, at this point, pretty much gotten rid of every other asset that they have. Clear Wembanyama sweepstakes. We'll just, look at their future assets and go from there.
Sexton and Clarkson will give them enough wins to not be the absolute worst team.
They do. I do not think they'll be the worst team. I think they've got enough guys that'll give effort to where they won't finish
Sexton
in that worst.
hates to lose.
Exactly.
If they tell him to tank, he still won't do it.
Well, do you think Clarkson is going to be even playing on the even if he's on the roster? Well, what point do you think
Clarkson's a player that'll be moved at deadline more than likely?
Yeah, I can see that.
Sexton, I fully believe they want to keep him around.
Yeah, they brought him in for a reason. I think he'll be part of that rebuild. He could be that future guard, and then it's just from there. They have so many draft picks in the future. I think things can get better very quickly for them. But yeah, right now there's not much more to add on that one.
So up in the nation's capital, we got the Washington Wizards. This is a team that is refusing to tank. Right? They want to go out there. And they made a win now move last year, trading for Kristaps Porzingis, and adding him to Bradley Beal. What do you think is in the cards for the Wizards this year?
Man, they're in such an odd spot.
I have no idea what to make of this team.
I would not want to be that GM. And I don't really keep up with them that much because they have just been so mediocre for so long. Bradley Beal, awesome player. Cool guy too. I mean, he does a lot of things for the community and everything. But this team, they'll probably, since the East isn't as good as the West, probably will be a 9 or 10 seed, but I would not be surprised if they just completely whiff on the play-in.
Man, I don't know, Taylor. I disagree with you. I think the East is just as good as the West is. I mean,
It might have more depth.
Yeah.
The East might be a deeper
I
conference.
don't think their top-end talent's quite as good.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that. But you start talking about in the playoffs, I think it's going to be just as tough to make the playoffs in the East as it is in the West. But you start talking about the Wizards, man. The Wizards are going to be a play-in level team, in my opinion. I mean, just because they've got veterans on that team, you got Bradley Beal, you got Kristaps Porzingis, you got Will Barton, you got Kyle Kuzma, and then you even got they added Monty Morris, right? Like I can see this team; they have the pieces, but is Kristaps Porzingis gonna stay healthy? Probably not. Is Bradley Beal gonna stay healthy? I don't know. We'll see, right? I see this team as a play-in team. I don't necessarily see them being as a consistent, solid team. I wouldn't bet all my money on it.
Yeah,
500 even in the cards. 41-41. Is that even in the cards for these guys?
I don't
just
think so,
can't
but I
see
don't
it.
think you need that many wins to get to like that 9-10 spot, which is I think where they'll be. I think they've got enough talent to not be at the very bottom, but yeah, I think best case scenario
Were they a 10 seed last year?
I think
They were a 12 seed.
yeah, I think they're
They didn't make the
outside.
play-in
No, because it was
with 35 wins.
Yeah, they were out of it with 35. I think they'd have to get close to 38 to 40 wins, which is, I mean, it's possible, if they stay healthy the full year. But even then, that's best case scenario. I don't think there's a whole lot to be excited about over there in Washington.
I don't see Johnny Davis adding much this season either.
All right, so guys, let me get a couple of your picks this year so we can get them on the books. Who y'all got winning Rookie of the Year?
Paolo.
I was gonna be contrarian, but yeah, I think that's a safe pick. I'd go with Paolo Banchero for sure too. What do you think?
And we can also all say Paolo, and then we can say dark horse. We can do a dark horse.
No, I got one. I'm going Jaden Ivey this year. I think that
I like that pick.
I like him playing off of Cade this year. I mean, they're playing in Detroit. They got nothing to lose. And I think all those guys it's a young team that just is going to want to win and want to compete. I'm going with Jaden Ivey.
I think if you were to go dark horse, Benedict Mathurin would be my pick. I just love his game, and I could
solid.
I'd be curious on what the actual odds are. I think he would provide some great value as far as betting wise would go.
Oh, that's a good one. All right. So let me get another pick from you guys. How about let's do MVP? Who's your MVP this year?
Fine to try to give it to him a third time, but I just don't see that happening. Embiid, can he really play 75 plus games to be in contention for it? I think this might be the year we go back to Giannis. I just think he's been the best player in the league for so long now that I just think he's the clear cut for me.
Give me John Morant.
John Morant, I like
We're going Morant for MVP this year. Let's go Grizzlies 60-plus wins, and Morant averages 28-plus points, 8 assists.
I'm picking Joel Embiid. I think this year he stays healthy. I think he was, he had a year about it. He had a great year last year. It was really close. And then you know how all these awards go. They're all narrative awards, man. Like this guy has said he wants the award, so people are watching for him. And I think he'll stay healthy this year. I think with how deep that team is this year, I think they'll be able to low manage him a little bit, so he can kind of stay away from some of those health concerns. All right, and so which two teams you got in the finals, and who you got winning it?
I think I've got to go back to Golden State. I think at the end of the day, with all the drama that they have, winning solves everything. And I think that they are just so deep from top to bottom. I think Steph still has a lot left. I think Klay's going to actually look a lot better this year in that second year back from injury, as we discussed earlier. I think the Warriors coming out of the West, and then on the East, I've got to go with the Bucks. I think they'll be a top 2 or 3 seed. I think if Chris Middleton's healthy, they're going to go far. I think if he was healthy last year, they would have been in the finals last year. So it might be kind of a safe pick, but I'm going Warriors over Bucks.
I'm gonna do something a little different here. I'm gonna take the Nuggets to make that run. They're gonna get there, and I'm also gonna have the Nets put it all together and get there. That would be an intriguing finals matchup to me.
That would be.
I mean, that would be a lot of fun. So yeah, let's go.
So who wins it?
Nuggets, Nets. Nets.
Nets.
Yep.
Okay.
Durant
Ben
gets,
Simmons solves everything.
Yep. Durant gets the championship away from the Warriors.
That's a storyline right there. Now, I'm going with Clippers-Bucks finals, and I'm actually going to pick the Clippers to win this year. I mean, you got to sit here and think, man, like they've had this team together for 5-6 years now at this point. They just haven't stayed healthy, but I think this is the year they put it all together. The roster's so deep. I think the Clippers will win their first championship this year.
I like it.
All right, gentlemen, let's hit a little recap of what we got. So Taylor, you got the list here. So let's go over the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, the good old Chick-Fil-A hot chicken sandwich performers. Who do we got?
We have the Celtics, Nets, Warriors, Clippers, Bucks, and the 76ers.
Okay, solid. Now let's go ahead and move on down to the contenders with a little bit of luck category, the Chipotle Rock Stars.
We only have 3 of these teams.
All right.
Cavs, Mavs, and the Grizzlies.
Okay. Let's go with those the Alex Smiths of the world, the solid get your teams to the playoffs and not do a whole bunch, but we feel a little safe about them. Those McDonald's guys, how are we doing on those?
We have the Raptors, the Pelicans, the Timberwolves, the Heat, and the Atlanta Hawks.
All right, for those Patrick Beverly playing stars, the Dairy Queen Blizzard Shakes handed upside down. Who we got for them?
We got the good old Warriors. Just playing. We got the Wizards, Trailblazers, Kings, Suns, Knicks, the Lakers, and the Bulls.
All right. And then for those lowly Captain D's people out there, the Wembanyama Sweepstakes All-Stars. Who we got?
These guys will be competing for, maybe one of the greatest prospects to ever come into the league. So they're going to be going at it. They're going to be giving it their all.
They're going to be nursing ankles like you've never seen before. They're going to be taking sick days, flu days. They're going to be testing for COVID 3 times per day, hoping that somebody cannot play.
The most overworked / underworked athletic training staff in the league.
You got the Hornets, the Pistons, the Rockets, the Pacers, the Thunder, the Magic, Spurs, and Jazz.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Thank you guys for tuning in to another week's episode of the Hoop Junkie Podcast. We're excited for the season. We hope to see you guys soon. All right. Make sure you guys also follow us on all social media at Hoop Junkies Pod on Twitter and Instagram for any updates and just to see some cool stuff, right? And then also follow us on the YouTube page as well. Like and subscribe this video. All right. We'll be back at you.